Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books presents Thou Shalt Not Run by Sabrina B. Scales, narrated by Wesleigh, Siobhan, and Jakobi Diem. 1. The thing about love, be it God's love or man's, is that you can't run from it. Not when it's real. Mommy. Jada. He wasn't who I needed, but he'd suffice. And though I didn't appreciate the way he sounded when he came, or the fact that he came on my favorite blue dress, I did appreciate him making me feel good, which was all I needed him for in the first place. Jamie was weird. Fine as hell, but so damned weird. If I wasn't mounting him on the balcony of his 20th story high-rise, I was sucking his dick while he sat on the edge of the bathtub in the guest bathroom because the acoustics in his master bathroom weren't as intense, and he needed intensity when he screamed his way through an orgasm. I don't know how I'd survived this for the last 2 months. I guess the bitter was worth the sweet. And I couldn't pinpoint the exact date when enough would be enough, but it'd be soon. My heart could only take so many adrenaline rushes before it leaped out of my chest and asked if I'd lost my damn mind. My bad, baby. You know how I get? Jamie tucked his long fingertips under my chin, forcing me to look up into a set of eyes that looked like they'd been poured into his head from a jar of honey. Yeah, unfortunately I do. I smirked, not taking my eyes off his, because they were just that pretty. Granted, there was nothing behind them but superficiality, fueled by a lifetime of meaningless compliments. You know I can buy you a new dress, right? I can buy you a whole closet full of new dresses if that's what you... How many times have we had this conversation? Now it was time to stop looking into those eyes. The second Jamie started incorporating money, his money, into the equation, it was my cue to zip up and leave. Too many times for you to still be this bent out of shape about it. He stood from the edge of the bathtub and lent a hand as I stood from the floor, straightening the royal blue dress that I'd planned on wearing to my niece's baptism, but may not be able to because now it was stained with dick milk. I don't know why you're making such a big deal about it. It's just money, he explained, as I approached the mirror to see if the stain was as big as it looked, coming out of the head of his penis. And it was. It's just money to you, because you've always had it, I returned, looking up at his reflection in the mirror behind me, light skin contrasting with my golden complexion, like the sun eclipsing the moon. That's not fair. He kissed my neck, hardening a set of nipples that had just recently softened. I just want to give you something in return for all you've given me. He kissed me again, trailing his hot tongue over my sensitive skin and the gold chain around my neck, almost making me reconsider going to the baptism or any place where his tongue wasn't present. I don't have time for this, Jamie. Boogie's getting baptized in... I looked down at my lit phone screen on the lip of the sink. An hour. I finished, trying and failing to step to the side and escape Jamie's erection that was growing against my behind. That's plenty of time. He slid his long hands down the sides of my thighs, stopping at the hem of my knee-length dress and rolling it up around my hips. Jamie, please. He cut me off with a thumb to the clit, circling the easily stimulated area, knowing I could never resist a clit massage. I promise it won't be long. I just want to see you come. Will you come for me, sweet Jada? I hated when he called me that, mostly because he was 10 years my senior, though he didn't look it, and it made me feel like a kitten or a puppy or some shit. Fuck. I stumbled over my words as he vigorously rolled his thumb over my swollen bulb, sending my body's entire blood supply rushing straight between my legs. Come for me. He gently draped my hair over my shoulder and out of the way, and whispered in my ear, hot breath bathing the bend between my neck and shoulder. Please, baby. He kept on rubbing, slipping 1 then 2 fingers inside me until I felt like I might implode. Fuck, Jamie, I screamed, sending a stream of condensation dancing across the mirror as I leaned forward with Jamie pressed against my back, shoving his fingers inside me, then pulling them out and shoving them back in again. He ground his erection against my behind, watching my contorting face in the mirror, knowing exactly how long it would be before I made a wet mess on the palm of his hand. That's it, baby, he encouraged me. You're almost there. He clenched his teeth with anticipation as I moaned, rolled my hips, and opened for him. With both palms planted on the base of the sink, I fought to breathe through the intensity building at my core. Sweat beaded on my forehead, and my nipples were so hard I thought they might detach and fall onto the shaggy black bath rug. Jamie latched onto my neck and sucked me hard, honeyed eyes still wide open staring at me as I came, panting all the way through. Now, was that so bad? He kissed my neck again, as solid as a rock against my ass, as he grabbed a wash towel from the wicker basket on top of his sink. I parted my legs as he turned on the faucet and soaked the towel with water in preparation to clean me, another thing he enjoyed doing. How long do baptisms usually last? He lifted one of my legs and rested it on the countertop to gain access to me from the back. I don't know, I replied, a slight shiver traveling between my legs and up my belly as the soft, warm towel touched the wake of my climax. Think you'll be free afterward? I'd like to see you tonight. I knew this was coming. It was always coming. The week before, he'd been leaving me on red, and now he was trying to make up for lost time. Sorry, gotta get prepared for work Monday, I replied with a half smile. And after that, he was pressing. Why was he pressing? Looking like a well-kept barge with a perfectly lined, curly, tapered fade, Jamie was too damn fine to be this hard up for company. He could literally step outside and wait for women to fall out of the sky. But he wanted me, sometimes. The daughter of a pastor who knew his daughter was no longer pure, but sure as hell didn't know that her secret lover was shoving everything but the word of God in various holes throughout her body. Jada. Huh? He'd caught me off guard. I'd completely forgotten where I was, thinking about how awkward it was gonna be, and always was, seeing my father after being with Jamie. Can I ask you something? I asked, as he lowered my leg and straightened my dress, as if I couldn't do it myself. Anything, he replied, almost smiling. He was so damn pretty. What do you expect from me? From us? From this thing we're doing? I don't know why I chose that particular day to ask. Nothing had changed in either of us that would lead me to that line of questioning. The hesitation in Jamie's response should have alarmed me, and would have, had it been anybody else. But he always took his time responding to my questions, mostly because I rarely asked any, and he probably felt the need to calculate his response. I expect to see you after work tomorrow, he said, and I didn't exactly have an expectation, but if I did, it wouldn't have been that. And after that, I continued, just to see where things would go. Where is this coming from? He asked. You know my expectations, Jada, he interrupted. They've been the same since the day I met you, sitting at the bar in my hotel. I've never admired any woman as much as I admire you. You're perfect in every way, and I need that. I need you. I need to taste you and be tasted by you. I need your body close to mine as often and for as long as possible. Is that a problem? No. I turned around and pressed a finger to his pretty pink lips. I was just asking a question. Now I gotta go. I stood on my tiptoes to kiss him, gripping his dick because it was pressing against my belly in a way that was not to be ignored. "And if I'm not too tired," I whispered, with the brim of my lips touching his, as I looked up into those magical eyes, "I'll be back." "Please don't be too tired, Jada." He pulled me tight against him and gripped a big hand on my ass. "I need you next to me tonight." He slipped his tongue into my mouth, leaving the sweet taste of lust and desire there for me to crave until we kissed again. "Is that gravy?" I'd thrown on a shawl to cover the stain, but my 3-year-old niece, Patience, pulled it off and was currently braiding it while her mother licked her thumb and tried to wet the spot on my dress. "Angela, don't." I grabbed my sister's hand to stop her from licking her thumb again after she'd wiped it across my dress. "That's not gravy." I held onto her hand, eyes sliding from hers to Patience's backpack where Angela kept everything but the kitchen sink. "Here." I pulled the powder-scented wipe from the flowery pink pouch on the side of the bag. "Do not lick that thumb." I widened my eyes for emphasis as we sat beside each other on the first pew of our family's church, waiting for the rest of the family to trickle in for Sunday service. Perhaps the most special one in a long time, since the youngest member of the Fold family was finally being baptized. "Jadalynn, is that—" "It is." I cut her off with a whisper and hiked brows, knowing that her voice carried, and God only knows what happened to women who shouted semen in the Lord's house. "Oh my God, you are a heathen, I know." I shook my head, smiling at Patience as she grinned, activating a deep dimple in her right cheek, while twisting the only article of clothing I could find in my car to cover the sin that had taken place before I came to her baptism. "It was an accident," I explained, giving Patience my phone to play with, in hopes that she'd accept it in exchange for my shawl. "The sex or the cum on your dress?" Angela asked, covering Patience's ears and not giving a smidgen of thought to how loud she was or wasn't to the 2 older ladies sitting behind us. "Penny, seriously?" I pinched her arm, calling her by the nickname our parents gave her at birth, because her skin tone was close to copper, about 4 shades darker than mine. "What? You're the one out getting knocked down before your niece's baptism?" She pinched me back as I glanced down at Patience navigating her way to the coloring book app I'd downloaded just for her. "Whatever." I rolled my eyes, draping the shawl over my shoulders, twisting and securing it in a loose knot just above my right breast. "God only knows how much fornicating you got into before Paul and my sweet niece here saved you from the grips of Satan." "God and you," she nudged my side, "and I like to keep it that way." She dug into the backpack to grab Patience's writing tablet. She hated the thought of her one and only child having access to the internet before she was old enough to be responsible for her own sins. Thankfully, I was a cool auntie and understood that though the internet was the devil's playground, it was also a fountain of information that she should learn how to drink from. "So, is it the same mystery brother you've been hiding from the fold?" She snagged my phone from Patience and replaced it with a bright pink writing journal and a matching pencil with a purple butterfly eraser on the end. She secured a set of pink headphones on Patience's ears and plugged them into her phone so we could talk without her picking up new words. "Honey eyes is what I think you have him hidden under in that raggedy phone of yours. I'm so glad the nosy gene skipped a sibling, because you and your brother have worked my last nerve." I rolled my eyes up to the back of the church, where our baby brother, Chad, had just strolled in, wearing a pair of shades to, no doubt, hide his red eyes. "And speaking of the devil," Angela followed my line of sight, "Chad gotta be the most trifling Negro this side of the Beltway, second only to you in your sticky dress. Did you see his Instagram story this morning?" She rolled her eyes and turned back around to me as Chad rationed out hugs to the female choir members who'd shown up to shower patients with an unnecessary song in hopes of finding their way deeper into Pastor Chadwick Fold Sr.'s good graces and a step closer to becoming his daughter-in-law. I didn't, I replied, smiling as my younger brother neared us, the scent of his womanizing cologne meeting us miles before he did. That's right, you were too busy taking nut to the face, Angela teased, and if my niece wasn't sitting between us, I would have slapped her. Anyway, somebody had a wild night. This boy was at Bottoms, turning up with Plus's new stepdaughter cousin. Who, Taya? I squinted. Angela nodded yes. How the hell did he land that? I dipped my neck back in disbelief. Not that my brother wasn't easy on the eyes or well connected to Houston's elite. We all were, thanks to this church our father had built. I just wondered how he'd penetrated the bond between Taya Maxey and her boo thing, Jock. Rumor has it, talk is no longer a thing. Angela swore up and down she wasn't into all the celebrity gossip, but she was always abreast of things with her old behind. I don't know what surprises me more, the fact that you refer to them as talk, or the fact that you know their business, I sighed, straightening my back against the pew. Girl, bye. She rolled her levered brown eyes, looking more like our grandmother with every birthday. Here comes freak number 2 himself, she whispered. And who's freak number 1? I turned my head to look her up and down. I'm looking at her. She panned those eyes up and down the side of my arm, faking a smile as our brother nudged me to scoot over so he could take a seat, smelling like a long night of sin. Chadwick, Angela greeted him, using his government name, knowing how much it annoyed him. Broomhilda? He greeted her with a random ugly name as usual. Y'all are so childish, I giggled, sliding over to make room for the long-legged, mild-mannered heartthrob, who'd stolen my title as the baby of the family, 6 months after my 2nd birthday. Sup, Jay? Chad leaned in and kissed me on the cheek, a thing he knew disgusted me because there was no telling where his lips had been. Great, now I got herpes. I frowned up, grabbing a wipe from Patience's backpack to clean my face. Man, chill, he grinned, elbowing the side of my arm. Pass me my niece before they put that sin repellent on her. Really, Chad? I looked over and up at him as Patience almost came out of her pale pink patent leather shoes, crawling across my lap. She loved her some Unky Chad. Poor baby didn't know any better. What? That's what the baptism's for, right? He pulled Patience the rest of the way, planting a sweet kiss on her little chocolate cheek, and cradling her in the bend of his long arm. The fact that you were literally born on the altar and don't know the purpose of baptism is a sin and a shame, Angela said, without looking toward Chad, confusion crossing her face as she looked at the phone in her hand, then over at the one that Patience was holding, head bobbing side to side to whatever she was listening to. Whose phone is that? She asked. Must be mine, I replied, after not locating my phone in my purse where I thought Angela had dropped it after taking it from Patience. I need good sets and commitment. Patience sang Monica's lyrics at the top of her lungs, and you could have bought my soul with a penny. With super speed and agility, I yanked the cord from my phone before taking the whole phone from my niece's hands, after she'd navigated her way to the Spotify app and turned on my Saturday morning playlist, all while Chad's big-headed ass entertained a 5-star member of Saved and Single sitting in an adjacent pew. Chad, seriously? I leaned into him and whispered. The 2 ladies in the pew behind us, 80-year-old twin sisters Rose and Lily Rivers, hadn't heard a word, since they were both partially deaf and only came to service for the brunch we served afterward. But several other members of the congregation that had trickled in early definitely heard her and were definitely recklessly eyeballing me, Angela, and Chad. What? She's 3, Chad said, more to me than the congregation, because he knew better. Give me my baby. Angela reached across me and plucked Patience from Chad's lap. "Just trifling," she fussed, standing from her seat and hurrying down the length of the pew in a pair of teal pumps that added half a foot to her already towering stature, with poor little Patience trailing behind, holding tight to her mama's hand. "Wait, where are you going?" I whisper-yelled before she made it to the end of the pew. "To get my baby ready for her baptism, before y'all saturate her in sin." She shot back over her shoulder, eyes shooting through me and Chad like lasers. I pressed a hand to my chest, and Chad just laughed like he always did, dismissing our goody-two-shoes older sister with a waved hand and a blown kiss. She was going to kill the both of us with her bare hands before it was all said and done. "You're trash, bro." I straightened my back against the pew and peered over at my brother, straightening my shawl. "What?" He squinted. "You're the one with the raunchy Spotify playlist. If you weren't eyeball deep in Sister Slut Bucket's cleavage, you would have seen what Boogie was doing." I tilted my neck to the side, and he couldn't even defend himself, just huffed out a chuckle and digressed. "Whatever, man. Yeah, whatever." I nudged his side. "And what's up with you and Taya Maxey? Heard y'all were on Insta looking coupled." I couldn't help but ask. "Man, you move fast." He squinted, rubbing a hand down the back of his kinky, short black mane. "I took that down like 10 minutes later." "Oh, I didn't see it," I corrected. Angela, patron saint of other people's business, saw it and reported accordingly. "I thought she didn't." "She does," I cut in. "And you still haven't answered my question." "Ain't nothing." He slanted the same levered eyes that Angela had at me, brown skin scrunched on his forehead. "Just wildin', you know, being young and free and—" "I know." I cut him off. "And you better be careful. I heard Plus don't play about his people." "I heard the same, and it's really not that serious. I mean, she might be coming through to get some ink later this week, but—" "Are you serious?" I gasped. "Chad, you cannot come at this girl the way you come at all the other groupies who wind up in your chair." I readjusted my shawl and relaxed against the pew. My brother was a wizard when it came to tattoos, but his high-profile clientele came with a lot of ass and titties, if you get my drift. And for his own safety, I didn't want him taking this visit from Taya Maxey lightly. Things could go terribly wrong if he didn't respect the ground this girl walked on. "You know what? I'm about tired of you and Penny coming at me like I'm a horrible nigga all the time." Chad curled his lip to the side at me. "But you are, though," I returned. "I'm hospitable." He shrugged his broad shoulders, popping the collar of his powder blue polo dress shirt. "It's why people keep coming back." "Yeah, but we ain't talking about people. We're talking about women. Taya Maxey, to be specific. And I don't know what you have up that sneaky little sleeve of yours, but I'm warning you to tread lightly, low bro." "I'll tread as I please, big sis. But thanks for the advice." "That you never take?" I shook my head and rolled my eyes up to the front of the church where a familiar face popped through a side door that led to the kitchen and almost took my breath away. I say almost because there had to have been a little left, and that was quickly taken away too when someone else popped out of the door behind him. "Is that Jet?" Chad asked, his voice muffled with the chattering of the congregation because all I could hear was my heart pounding in my chest. "Yeah, that's him. Jet!" Chad yelled, still muffled. I was stuck where I sat, or else I would have gotten up and left. Through the fog of my thoughts, I could see Jet, or as I called him, Drew, and his friend walking towards me and Chad. He was smiling, and so was she, as he held her hand loosely. Was I imagining this? Was it even possible that after 4 years of not being able to stand in the same room with this man, he was now approaching my pew? And with company, no less. Beautiful green-eyed company, with skin the color of uncooked spaghetti noodles and blonde braids down to the rise of her nearly flat behind. wearing a red dress more suitable for a night out and a pair of crimson pumps that put her shoulders just inches below Drew's. I watched in silence as Chad and Drew did the signature handshake that they'd been perfecting since Drew joined our church when he was just 12 years old. I didn't catch the green-eyed woman's name, though I'm sure Drew must have said it before her hand landed in Chad's, and it felt like all of the air was being sucked out of the room, leaving nothing lingering but the familiar scent of Drew's cologne. "Jay, you all right?" Chad's voice pulled me out of the fog that had settled over me. "I'm sorry. My sister must have had a long night." Chad laughed, and so did the green-eyed woman. But not Drew. He looked concerned, like he'd done something wrong but was waiting for me to tell him what it was. And I wouldn't, because how stupid would I sound asking him who this green-eyed woman was when it was none of my business and shouldn't have been my concern? Hi, I'm so sorry," I stuttered. Stuttered in front of my ex and the beautiful stranger he'd pranced into my father's church with. "I'm Jadalynn." I extended a hand, trying my best not to make eye contact with Drew, because the sight of him this close up was causing my stomach to churn. His full brown lips had been the canvas of my first kiss. His perfectly round, bald head had rested in my lap on many nights in college. His thick neck sprung from broad shoulders that had absorbed more of my tears than any eye could count. His big, strong hands had touched every inch of my body before I even understood what a lover's touch meant. "Hey, Jada, I've heard so much about you," Green Eyes chirped, pouty lips slathered in gloss, and I hoped God didn't judge me for wishing she'd slip and fall on him. "I'm Carrie, by the way, short for Carriante, which is way too hard to explain." She giggled. I did not. "Well, it's nice to meet you, Carrie," I nodded, taking a deep breath to fill my lungs while mapping out an escape route before things got awkward. "If you'll excuse me, I was about to go help out in the back." I lied. In the Lord's house, I told a bold-faced lie, and I'd have to repent for it later. But for now, I needed to get away from Andrew the Jet Julian and his panty-melting cologne, or so help me God, I was going to turn into a puddle.
2. Drew. I expected to see her, but I didn't expect to feel anything. I was mentally prepared to sit through the service feeling anxious, wondering if the rest of the congregation could feel the tension pulling between our chests. I'd planned on taking a seat on the last pew, out of sight and out of mind. But Chad caught me sliding in after dropping a tray of my grandma sandwiches off in the kitchen, and he just so happened to be sitting on the one pew in the entire sanctuary that I didn't want to sit on. Jada hadn't aged a day since high school. Same flawless caramel complexion, same sleepy brown eyes that didn't wake up unless she was upset, same Coke bottle shape that could be imagined even when she was sitting, same dark brown hair hanging down her back, pulled into a ponytail, leaving her pretty face unhidden, void of makeup because she never did need it. The only thing missing, probably my favorite of all her features, was her voice, a soft but authoritative sound that had talked me into and out of more things than I could take to the altar on Sunday. It was harder now, even though she was attempting to be polite. The softness had been off limits for me, along with her heart and my high school class ring that used to hang from the gold chain around her neck. She had it tucked, so I couldn't tell if the ring was still there. "I'm gonna go check on Boogie and Penny." Jada leaned forward, looking right past me, giving no acknowledgement as she spoke to Chad and nodded at Carrie. "It was nice meeting you, Carrie." She gave a polite smile before grabbing her blue clutch and standing from her seat. I could see Carrie's reaction to what must have been an awkward encounter to witness. But Chad wasn't fazed at all. He'd been watching his sister avoid me for years. "That was rude," Carrie said to me before Jada made it to the end of the pew. They got beef, Chad mentioned. And fair warning, don't ever let my sister...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?